Eh, at least I can still review here. Sup? Gran Turismo for— wait. Gran Turismo 3 was proven to be a juggernaut, as it currently stands as the second best-selling game on the PlayStation 2 at 14 million copies, only beaten by GTA San Andreas, and it was also considered the best entry in the series according to some lists, and yet somehow it's still underrated. After Sophie reviewed that game though, that's a hard disagree to her. While yes, the gameplay is fun, career mode is really rough. I find it really grindy at the start and really tedious once you get to the Pro Series. For the love of the gods, I don't want to suffer multiple 10 to 15 lap races in that game no more. More like Gran Turismo. It was right there! Anyway, you know the drill. After the Matrix success, Polyphony and Sony greenlit a sequel on the same system. While it was supposed to be released in 2003, as expected, it suffered from delays. So to keep fans hyped, they released GT4 Pro Lite, which is pretty much a glorified driving school. There's a video covering that and GT concept before on this channel, so go check them out if you care enough to hear crap opinions about them. Despite that, and content being cut, GT4 finally got released 3 days after Christmas 2004 in Japan, with overseas regions waiting till early 2005. This game is considered the peak of the series, which is a general consensus as shared with Forza Motorsport. So, you want disappointing quality or disappointing quantity? So sit back and let me try to examine if it really deserves to be called the GOAT, or am I just jaded after playing more racing games since? I didn't tell you to relax! Okay, so if this is your first time playing, you have to do this little setup, which I'll talk later. For now, here's the intro. As a kid, seeing this the first time scared me. Honest to God, the music at the opening felt creepy to me back then. It sounds so sorry with the opera singers going low key. It should be more appropriate for a funeral than a racing game intro. It made me skip it. And then I heard just the song itself at the jukebox later on, and I went, oh shoot, this actually sounds good. So I watched the intro again, but I ended up disappointed. Yeah, I was playing the European version back in the day, which jarringly has Kasabian's Reason to Treason playing after that bit. At least it's not Clubfoot. Alright, let's play the real deal. As always with these Japanese originals, except GT6, the intro has Moon Over the Castle by Masahiro Ando, playing over replay footage, a staple for any GT game, and it's just great, always fitting and always mesmerizing. And look at it, 60 FPS! Put GT7 to shame, though I'm glad MOTC is played in all versions there. So the European version is a bust, but how is the US one? Second best. Here's the title screen, and I really miss Silent Ones so much. The logo for this is oddly structured, but not as weird as GT2's US version. Usually the GT logo tends to look like this. Big logo with small text just underneath it. Here it's bigger text underneath a smaller logo. But if I try to make it look like the default, yeah, it just looks weird now. Also, I have to rant here. I have this annoying pet peeve whenever anyone talks about this game. Why do some people keep using this botched logo in their video thumbnails? Like, you have the game with you, you play the game, you see the logo in the darn title screen. How the hell did you not see the mistake in time? You have eyes that see color fine, right? Do I have to give you a color blindness test? Anyway. Unlike in GT3, where there's a mode to unlock new tracks and extra cars, this one doesn't. But at the start, you get a good amount of tracks and cars at your disposal, like hundreds of them, holy hell! I like how you can sort by brands or eras from oldest to 1999. Yeah, who cares about everything after that year? None of the newer ones are on par with this, baby. You can also add some cars as your favorites for a quick selection. I like this, but I also like the fact that you can manage to unlock all the cars for arcade mode and career by just buying or earning them. A tall task, but still doable. It is a shame later entries ditched that, at least the PS3 games. I don't know if Sport or 7 still do that because I don't have at least a PS4. Anyways, let's race! I'm gonna be a contrarian jerk for a bit, but fans have been, and still are, admiring how graphically impressive and how close to real life everything looks for a PS2 game. Yet here I am going, why does Autumn Rain look boringly great compared to the GT concept version? Why is New York a blurring mess? What are these people? Is the dirt in Grand Canyon dual layered or is it just me? And is this panel in the Deep Forest reverse supposed to be here? The flipping thing is floating on its own. Granted, I'm playing this via PCSX2, so the lower res interlace image can hide some issues. Not others though. Look at New York. This is way worse than the prologue version. Everything besides the signs are darn blurry. It's not even funny. Hong Kong and the Paris tracks look a lot better than this. What happened here? But yeah, for the most part, the graphics look very good for the time. The cars look nice without any obvious inaccuracies, except for the R390 road car that has the race car bumper, and they only fixed that over starting GT6. Most of the tracks look pretty with the right saturation, and the visual style for the menus are nice. I quite like the dealership menus with a little map and pictures fitting to another. I don't like navigating the main map though, it's just as worse now that the thing is really big compared to previous games. So much so that the camera has to be zoomed in to see where you're going. Not confusing, but I much prefer the one in GT5. I'm sorry, but that's just how I like it. Surprisingly, you can use the mouse to move the cursor, but you can't click to go in. Shame. Gotta be honest, there's just something in GT3 that tinkles my gut better than 4. Not the chase cam though, and I think it looks better. It still isn't set high enough for me, so it can be a bit difficult to judge a corner like that, but it isn't as obstructing. Still wish they kept this cover for the races though, had to use a fan-made patch for that. I don't like the bobbing and the motion blur whenever you're crashing bumper cam though. Fun fact, a fact that many of you already know about, but a fun fact nonetheless. In the NTSC versions, that is the American and Japanese versions, there's an option to change the visuals to the interlace standard depth, progressive scan at 480p, or even 1080i. Gran Turismo 4 is one of the very few games that support Full HD, and you won't believe what other game had a 1080i option. Valkyrie Profile 2. And also Tourist Trophy and Jackass. I try to see where the option is, but it's nowhere in there. Who said it has support for it? Problem is that you only get progressive or 1080i during races and replays. Everywhere else is set back to 480i. Jeez, other games with 480p options in a low ball like that. Yeah, I said it, GT4 is weak! I'm not gonna bother with 1080i because it looks so jagged, it's embarrassing. 480p is a good option, but a nightmare when recording. My capture device really hates it when the game changes signal to an interlace one, whether it's progressive to interlace or between both interlace signals. If it does, the screen goes black and I have to restart the capture software or go to a progressive signal. It displays fine in the pass-through, but still infuriating. That's why I'm playing the US version of PCSX2. It feels so wrong, yet so right. As for sound, it keeps haunting me. Yeah, I heard better. Don't get me wrong, some cars sound very nice, like the old GT40, but others still don't sound right. The skid noise is rather weak too. I already missed the stock one from previous games. At least the hit noises are here. The menu sounds are all new, nothing you use from GT2, and they're about as memorable, at least to someone who played it a lot. I like the arrows sound better though. For music, let's start with the menu stuff. Unusually, there's barely any new songs for this. Instead, it's remixes of those used in the first 3 games. It's pretty evident when you first go to arcade mode, where it uses a remix of the car dealership menu from GT3. And as you go to GT mode, oh hey, it's a parts shop from GT3. The main GT mode menu cycles through 5 remixes from that to the data transfer song from GT2, or the map from Japanese GT1, the main map from GT2, or the Nissan dealer from Japanese GT1, the license menu from GT3, and the Subaru dealer from Japanese GT1. It doesn't stop there. The race halls one is the GT3 map menu, the circuit menus also have a cycle that includes the East map from GT2, the replay feeder is the pre-race menu from GT3, the bronze jingle is from when you win a championship in GT2, and the power and speed menu? GT3 arcade menu. Also, the price card jingle is literally taken from GT3.
Are you fucking shitting me?
Now, I might sound like I'm complaining. Yeah, there's only a few originals like the pre-race menu and the license one, unless that's supposed to be a remix of the license pre-race ones for the first two, but I actually quite like those remixes, especially the East Map song. It sounds better than older ones. It's just so nicer, you know? The 4th GT menu song is quite smooth, and I like that as well. I just like them all, really. Now for the races. Wait, what the hell is Oh Yeah doing here? Like the previous game, the sound has a lot of licensed songs and a few Ducky Cash originals. I quite like his offerings here, with all of them vocal, from the likes of Shaggy of Dakota Star and Alan Bray. They're pretty great, having a different sound compared to GT3 stuff. At least they don't remind me of a crappy meme. A few songs showed up in Prologue, though with the exception of Good Days Bad Days, they sounded different there, similar beats to those from GT3. I still prefer the final versions though, especially Breakdown. I just think it has better production. I love It's All About You, and I really wish that was the end credits song instead of the Moon Over the Castle remix. The European and Japanese versions share the playlist with the US version, and I will say, after I played the price card randomizer mod for the game, I am so disappointed with the American one. For one, it has way less music tracks than the PAL and even the Japanese versions. No Hives, no Spider Bait, no Eagles of Death Metal, no Span, no 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster. Oh sure, it has a Apollo 440, Papa Roach, Bootsy Collins, and Will I Am. As well as the pop rock remix of 70s disco and funk from the Commodores, Earth, Wind & Fire, and James Brown. Superbad is the best and Getaway is the worst in my opinion. But it sure as hell doesn't have Queens of the Stone Age. Sure, you can change your playlist like the last game, but I'd just be listening to Ducky Casho songs and Van Halen. And there are many here, so I muted them all together. While the Japanese version has all but 4 tracks from the European version, it also has remade versions of the original soundtrack from GT1, composed by the same artist as that, Masahiro Endo. While I prefer the original version of Freedom to Win because saxophone. I feel these versions sound just as good, if not better, than the originals, and I still wish they showed up in the overseas versions. They're really missing out. Well, at least there's Moon Over the Castle, also better than the original, because opera. And speaking of opera, just use Firefox. Good gravy, that took me long enough. While the game supports steering wheels, specifically Logitech ones like the Driving Force Pro and Letter GT, which will be perfect for this, I'll be using the controller for the whole game. As always, by default, the control scheme is about the same as previous games. X for gas, square for brakes, triangle for reverse, which is pretty unusual for a racing game, L2 and R2 for changing gears if you feel like going manual, and on the D-pad or left stick to handle it. The only difference is that changing cameras is bound to select, as L1 is not used for something different. I gotta be honest, I still don't like the analog face buttons. They're really finicky and I hate them. So I'm glad I can rebind the buttons, allowing me to make R2 and L2 as the gas and brake pedals respectively. Screw you, right stick! The handling feels a bit nerfed, but I quite like it. The rear-wheel drive cars still do burnouts, but they won't oversteer every time we tackle a corner without assist. It's only a problem when you drive older ones like a Shelby Cobra or extremely tuned muscle cars. Not as ridiculous as Forza, but just still tail happy at times. Race cars are way easier to handle this time, speaking of which. Like Sophie said in her prologue video, they drive as though I'm playing an arcade game with its grippy handling and fast acceleration, which obviously is what they're supposed to have in real life. The front-wheel drive cars are a different story, as in real life, turning your car while accelerating results in understeering, and some cars like the Honda City just prevent you from steering at all, unless you step off the gas. This game made me hate FF cars. Now it's all expected, and yeah, I really like how this game plays. I still don't like the other gearboxes sometimes. Cars like this RX-8 concept car just forces you to slow the hell down if you want to downshift. While I expect this in a race car, a road car is much worse for this. God damn, it's one of the reasons why I prefer manual. It's never about the feel though. I have the opposite opinion about the assists compared to Hardigred. They suck so much. Now the point of the assists is they prevent wheel spin so that you don't accidentally drift or snap oversteer. The problem I have is they don't help as much as it annoys me. They make rear-wheel drive cars understeer since they have to slow the car down by a lot in a corner. And it's only worse if it's in a dirt track. My god, it's actually worse than in GT3. Worse yet, just like that game, you have to disable it on every car you bought and earned individually because for some reason, believably they didn't implement a universal assist switch on this game either. Screw this, I'm going back to Forza. As for the opponents, they are about the same as in GT3. They really don't give a rat's ass about you. They don't slow down when approaching me, so if you're trying to recover from a spin knot, you'll most likely get hit by them. They can try to pass you at least, but man, they're rather brain dead at times. Still fun to see them screw up at times. Speaking of samey, 6 maximum cars on track, no damage models, and no penalties for cutting or colliding with other cars, unless you're doing a mission or a special conditions race for the latter part. Okay. Hey, at least our races have tire wear and fuel usage, even in races with so little laps, not enough for a title change. Also, I kept forgetting qualifying is only available for championships. And let's get this out of the way. No, you still can't flip it Trial Mountain. This sucks. Now you might be asking, what is this? Those are A-spec points, which are given to you by winning the race. The amount of potential points actually determines how easy the race will be. Mostly, if it has the points in single digits, then it's an easy race. If it's around the 50 or 100 range, then it's an even race. And 200? Good luck! It's a pretty nice indicator, but it has flaws. Even races with single digit points aren't always that easy. That is, if an opponent has a much better cut than the rest of them, or the track is a hard pitch like seated area. I'll get to that. Plus, if you use a Dodge Ram in an event, you'll get points in the late 100 range, yet they can be easy. Because for some reason, driving the Dodge Ram in arcade mode means having to race with old-ass K cars. Amazing. But other than that, what do these points do? Is there something special with them? Well, no, they don't do anything. You can't redeem anything with these. Basically, they're just bragging rights. It's nice that it has some sort of an odd system, but it's not as fleshed out as Infusia. Might talk about that game one day. And yeah, that's basically it for the main gameplay portion. And yet I'm not halfway into the video. But what does this headset do? What the heck? This, people, is B-Spec, the race driver manager half of the game. So what you do here is tell your driver to push it or slow things down during your race, as well as commanding them to pass someone or pit in. And that's basically it. Tell them which pace and to overtake, and watch them improve their racing skills over time. Now, if I were a manager game nerd, I would say that it's not as complex as whatever driver manager game was popular back then. But I'm a racing game nerd, and I think it's a novelty thing that's interesting for a few tries and never get used again. Since it's completely optional, I ended up doing most races in A-Spec mode. However, you can enter events that require a license you don't have and just use the B-Spec to do it. And there's a neat feature that prevents it from being overlooked. If you don't want to bore yourself, you can swap to this screen and speed up the race, which is very useful for endurance races. And let me tell you, some of those events are really something. I'll get there. And this leads me to the career mode, and trigger warning, I'm gonna complain a lot about it. First off, it is required to create your profile in your memory card before even stepping inside GT mode. It's an odd thing given how you can just start career or story mode in most games without a card plugged in. Even GT3 gives you the option to get inside GT mode without it, but here it's strictly enforced. We take it for granted these days, but that's because save files are stored inside internal storage instead of removable ones. Yeah, my first complaint may sound like a nitpick until you learn that it requires at least 1.5 MB to create a save. Like, holy hell! This shocked me as a kid. I never seen a file size that big back then. This was before I was very knowledgeable about PCs, but even then, it's really big. Nowadays, I have multiple memory cards, and you can just create an infinite amount of virtual ones for PCSX2. Look how bougie I am. But back then, if you couldn't afford another memory card, like me back then, you basically had to delete a few or some files just to fit that sucker in. And believe me, it always impresses me how I had to do it. This was Kid Me's version of trying to make space for a AAA game. Man, games are bloated these days. Don't worry, I have harsher critiques than this. So here's the map, which looks much less of a map than previous games, and like I said, it's guaranteedly wide and zoomed in. Again, I much prefer the high contrast menus if I'm being honest. Unlike the last mainline game, we're now back to separate dealerships filed under singular countries. Same goes for the race halls now. You still have your GT Auto and Power and Speed to test out your acceleration at max speed. And look, we're back to just 10k again. And what's this? Used dealerships? We're really back, aren't we? Unlike the first two where used cars are sold in their own brand dealerships, this game has three. The historic one where it has cars from up to the 80s, the early 90s one, and late 90s and beyond one. Now you could just buy your first ride at a new car dealership if you go by their classic section. This honestly seems tempting, or this Hyundai gets in a Korean version, but like always, it's best if you buy a used car and use the rest for a few upgrades. It's okay if you don't like what you see, the shop refreshes every week, and you'll discover something special at the week of day 694. This dual-layer DVD contains over 700 cars you can drive, which is a huge step up from GT3's over 180. Now it may seem all good, until you look up the car list. No, it's not the boring Japanese hitboxes that take most of the roster. No, it's the duplicates, the variants, the repeats. Did I just say the two words with the same meanings? That's basically the point. It's not uncommon to see the same car in a dealership, even if this car is better than the same looking car. Is it really necessary to put the petrol and the diesel versions of the 1 series? And why does this game have both the AC and the Shelby Cobras? They're all the same. The worst offenders have to be the Miatas, the Civics, and the Skylines. I think Kaz has a fetish for these. Look, I like Skylines a lot, but the inclusion of this many variants makes me question if polyphony out of them just for the sake of hitting that golden number. What's the difference between an 89 Offering 2 and a 91 Offering 2? Why can't you just have the 3 different yet famous Skylines and a few variants and replace the rest with some more interesting cars like the Nissan Figaro? Why did you fill the list with too many Skylines? Why? Yeah, that's my main gripe with the car list. Too many repeats. You know what they say, quality over quantity. So if you take the repeats and most variants off, including all of Vauxhall since they're just rebatched Opals, you're left with around 475 cars. Yeesh. Even still, the list has some standouts. The Group E cars are back with the addition of the 205s and a 5 Maxi Turbo. No Sport Quattro though, but here's a regular one instead. The all muscle cars are back. The Cuda, the Superbird with the big spoiler, the GT350, no GT500 unfortunately, Camaros, Corvettes, this old Celica, wait, a DeLorean is here, and a Blastoline Special too, or Janano's tank car as the game calls it. Hey, I'm glad there's more French and Italian cars again, as well as the Seat Ibiza, Volvos, Holdens, Falcons, and the Dome Zero from Concept. I thought I had to pronounce it as Dome since it's a Japanese brand, but it's actually pronounced like how you say it in English, Dome. Speaking of obscure brands, the Shazetta with 4 pop-ups, the Hummel, Autobikes with the Goraya, Chaparral, my US Championship nemesis, plus more K cars, including the return to the Hatsu slur towards little people. I'm sure there are those who don't mind being called that, but still. Also, a Model T! No, even better, these 19th century vehicles, the first cars ever. I guess we'll ignore past attempts because they're not patented as the first. You get your time, Kuno's machine. And don't forget the concept cars, from conventional looking ones to insane ones like the MTRC, the GSX-R4, and this thing, the Nike One 2022, a car powered by your body. If you're healthy enough and exercise every day, you get a pretty fast car as you drive. Downside, you have to drive it like you're in a motorcycle. Foreshadowing! Man, 3 years ago must have been wild. and more Le Mans prototypes from Group C Legends to modern open and closed cockpits. Shame this is the only Bentley here and the entire series so far though. Even despite the repeats and a few missing ones like the Diablo and the Toyota Pod, there's a lot of weird and interesting stuff on the list, either by buying them or earning them in races. Heck, the American and European ones have a lot more, like the aforementioned Chaparral cars compared to the Japanese original, while the Korean version has a few exclusive Hyundai cars. It's great! Still no Ferraris though, but the Zondas and the Chisetta will suffice. So anyways, this is my first car, a Lancer Evo 1, which it was blue. Word of caution, if you buy a used car, it's always best to change the engine oil. For some reason, whoever is selling them don't bother doing it. A bit annoying, but it's 50 credits a pop, still I'd change for that. Of course, most cars can be upgradable, from their exhausts, their suspensions, brakes, clutches, tires, weight reduction, to turbochargers if it's allowed to have. What's more, you can even add a Nitrous canister to your ride. Oh my god, it has turned into Nitrous on the ground! Although, like that, it lasts for like a minute or two if you keep holding the L1 button, so it isn't as ridiculous as that. But you can set up how the Nitrous works if you want it to go quicker or not. It's standard stuff from the last games, most upgrades can be dismounted and all. However, every time you buy and install the upgrade, it gives you a loading bar. Now, I didn't care about it much, I thought the game was updating the car stats. And then I thought, why would it take that long to do so? GT3 does the upgrade install instantly. There must be something as to why there's a loading bar there. There isn't. As Sophie said in their GT4 randomizer video back in 2023, it's just a superfluous way to make the game feel realistic. In a game where you can't flip your car, there's a few events that you can enter right away with no strings attached, like the Sunday Cup, but like before, most events require licenses, so let's check them out. Seems like they downgraded to 5 categories this time compared to 2 and 3. Gotta do B first and ah! Was that foreshadowing? This is a damn jump scare as someone who played the first 3 games. Now each license has double of what each had in the previous game, 16 tests! Well, actually 17 if you count the optional coffee breaks, but I'll get to that. See, this is my problem with the licenses in this game. Doing 10 tests each is bad enough, but this is just terrible, I'm sorry! Geez, Sega GT didn't force you to do a bunch of tests to unlock a set of cars you can buy, just one challenge and there you go! Anyways, it's what you expect. The start-stop tests in B license, which at least aren't all in a column or straight. The slot-up test teaching you that driving without assist could be challenging, so is with assists, and the S license is full of 1-lap time attack challenges. But now there isn't a rally license, so the dirt and snow tests are lumped together with the tarmac ones, just like in GT2. In fact, the licenses here follow a set pattern. After every 4 tests, you get to do a 1-lap guide where you have to follow that skyline as you go around the track. There's 2 rally-based tests after the second lap guide, and between tests 8 and 9, there's a coffee break, half of them involving hitting cones. Oh, that's the hell. Why yes, I love any of these. I won't lie though, it's still catchy, but I just wish they put the race by the same guys as well. The one good thing about the licenses are the coffee breaks for getting bronze is the easiest thing to do, no minimum time required, just finish it in one piece. Also, they don't count to the total of finished tests required, so even if you have all gold but not in a coffee break, you still get a gold prize car anyway. Oh, speaking of which, now you can earn coins if you did a license in all bronze and all silver, so that eases the pain. I lied, there's actually 2 good things about them. It's a shame getting that Model T is an arduous task because you need to get all gold in the S license. This really sucks. Anyways, got one of those done, let's actually check the events. Unlike in Gran Turismo 3, with the exception of the special condition races, there is no harder version of the events, so it's just 1 FF challenge, 1 stars and stripes, and 1 VITS race, thankfully. So I'm glad there's more variety, but even then, I tend to do them very easily. It doesn't help that most events don't restrict horsepower or type of car, unlike in GT2, so you can enter the championship with a race car, so long as you have the appropriate tires. Speaking from my own experience, of course, more power to you prefer racing without much muss, but to me, I'd rather get things done without much fuss. I am so behind schedule. That isn't to say that I haven't encountered some snags here. Oh boy, this event. The World Classic Car Series is self-explanatory, but most of your opponents use cars that don't go over 300 horsepower. Pretty easy for an IB license required event, you might say. Only most of the time, one of the opponents is driving a Shelby Cobra. Well, an AC427, but you get my point, they're the same. This thing puts other classes in the game to shame, and it's next to impossible to pass if you drive something as weak as other opponents. It's this game's equivalent to the GT40 in Rome from the second game, only it's much worse as it's a championship and it has a Nürburgring in its calendar. you might try buying the Cobra, but oh buddy. And this is the cheapest version from AC. If not that as an opponent, then it's this cursed car, a modified Buick Special. Cursed because years after it was shown and it won the GT award at SEMA 2003, the original owners were involved in a murder suicide perpetrated by the husband, while its builder died of a hydroplane accident. Anyway, the beginner hall is where the Sonic Cup and drivetrain races are, whereas the professional hall has the aspiration, body shapes, and the coveted GT World Championship, which you can't enter until you did all of those races. That's a pretty nice restriction, mind you. And here's a tip, if you want to win it, get a Group C car, especially the 88 CV, which you can earn it by winning the Capitan 200-mile race. The event will be harder without it, trust me, I know. And winning that unlocks the extreme events, where like the Wind, the Dream Car, and Formula GT championships reside. Oh, the Formula GT event, 15 races, all endurances. And if you want to race with the same car as them, well, I'll get there. Moving swiftly, I like that the races are stuck with 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever laps are preset like the previous game. They can be whatever laps the devs thought it's enough. 1 lap races in Tokyo? Good. 1 lap Nordschleifer races? Good. You also have your continental halls and some brands with their own race events. And I like to highlight a few of them because, oh boy. First is 1,000 miles. It's actually not as pleasant as that song. This is a beginner's trap. It doesn't need a license to enter, and all you need is a classic car. Any, as long as from 1970 or before. And then you're here with these lap counts. This is actually an endurance championship, so I hope you have a good pit strategy while also being patient. Also, like that classic car event, one of the potential opponents is that damn Cobra. Then you have the 206 Cup and the Speedster Trophy. Both cups are required an IB license, and you know why once you enter them. The cars are hard tuned. Now, for the 206 Cup, it's not that hard if you enter with the rally car, but the Speedster one is a little more complicated. Not only is there no race car variant, but the opponent's Speedsters are way more upgraded than they should. Even if your car is fully upgraded, you're still at a disadvantage. The game's fandom page, yes I know, recommends getting the NA Speedster, upgrade to under 300 horsepower, don't add turbo, please, add a nitrous bottle instead, install a wing, and tweak the ballast and downforce settings. And please use racing tires. I recommend medium ones instead of super hards. Even with upgrades, you still get 208 spec points every race, but again, it's hard to trust that. Yeah, this game can screw you over more than even the 1.0 version of GT2. Okay, maybe not. I haven't witnessed an incident a la Vector M12 with trial mandatory left in my playthrough yet. Then you have the special condition events where you race one-on-one in tight roads, dirty or icy roads, or wet roads. Yeah, much like in the previous game, they're just rallycross duels and they're way more of an afterthought than low-power race cars. I'm sorry, but this is way more offensive to me. You even get penalized if you hit a wall or the other car. How come they're stricter than regular races? But the good thing is that if you win the Easy Capri Rally, you get the RSC Rally Car valued at over 250,000 credits. While the regular concept car can only be discarded, you can sell this car and get rich quick. But even better, in this game, you can clear the event wins, do them again, and earn the same car you won in there. Which means you can do this event and win the car many times as you want, quickly giving you $1 million in less than an hour. There's also the DTM event where you win the CLK GTR, which you can sell for 750 grand, but this one is a pretty easy grind if you ask me. You can use any car you like, and it only requires an A license. Sure beats doing the endurance races. Speaking of which, as soon as you reach 25%, the endurance races are unlocked, and they're your typical stuff like 200-mile ones, multiple hour ones, and all that. Except, what the hell? 8 hours? 9 hours? 1,000 kilometers? Holy crap, we even have the 24-hour races, 3 of them, and 2 of them are in the same track. Damn, believe they were way crazy than Kojima. That's nice and all, even if this game doesn't have a day and night cycle, nor mid-race saving to make it tolerable enough to do it entirely in A-Spec mode, but a few events aren't even worth doing. The 200-mile events give you at least 200 grand if you win, while the Roadster 4, Tsukuba 8, and Motegi 9-hour ones just give you way less than that. Why bother when those mileage ones could be done in just over 2 hours? And remember what I said about the Formula GT car? Well, the only way to get that is to win the 24 hours of Nürburgring. I am not joking. 24 hours around that track. Or less than that if you use B-Spec. Wait, hold on. Since I could just enter the FGT event with any car, I'll surely be fine driving a Le Mans prototype there, right? With a bit of elbow grease and a lot of patience, I can manage to win it with a Group C car. Besides, those formula cars are stuck on racing medians and it's impossible to buy harder compounds for those, so anything's possible. I gotta be honest here, if this is what y'all consider to be the best career mode, then this genre is about as perpetually doomed as TNA. It's a miracle there's still new races coming out to this day. Oh, you must be one of those Gen Z winos that want instant gratification instead of working hard to get that supercar you want. I'm 28, so I'm more of a zillennial, but also, not really. I just flip and hate license tests and 24-hour races. I'm not saying that I hate the career mode, it has stuff that I like. But mind you, I'm an amateur critic and I tend to be critical of things, even if they're deemed perfect by other people. I played so many racing games with different career modes that made me think GT4 could have been a lot better. What I would like is to have something that's similar to Forza, have less overly long endurance races, and replace the license stats with a leveling system. That's basically it, have events locked behind levels and there you go. Either that or significantly reduce the number of tests. Now you might think that GT5 is perfect since it has a leveling system and all that. It would be perfect, except the cars are also locked behind levels. When I said Forza, I didn't mean the first two. But we're not done with GT mode yet. You also have the 5 circuit menus, each corresponding to a type of track. Real ones, original ones, city ones, rallycross ones, and the driving park ones, which in arcade mode I'll lump together with the originals. And this is where I get to talk about the tracks for a while. We start off with the real circuits, which this game has a lot compared to GT3's 2. Or 1 if you think Côte d'Azur shouldn't count. Let's get this out of the way. Nürburgring. This shocked me as a kid, mainly for its length. Oh shit, it's that long. It's not the first racing game to have the Nordschleife included, but it sure hyped a lot of fans out there since the prologue game. Wish it had a different color filter though. Not enough? Here's the aforementioned Le Mans with versus with or without chicanes at the Mulsanne Straight. Also included are Tsukuba, Suzuka, Sonoma, back then known as Infineon Raceway, Montegi, a track I rather despise when driving slow cars at the East layout, but it also has a speedway, so that's neat. Laguna Seca, of course, and Fuji Speedway, both old and current iterations. You can tell the track was still under renovation during the game's release because the virtual depiction doesn't have adverts yet. While I kinda like this track, I still much prefer the old version, because you can cut this chicane and the game doesn't penalize you for it, at least in the 90s layout. You think that bear is gonna stop me? Pathetic. If this were like in Toga Race Driver, I wouldn't mention it. Then you have the originals, legacy tracks from the old games, and a few new ones, like El Capitan in Yosemite, California. A pretty nice tribute to classic racing in scenery, but I always dread this somewhat steep hill after the tunnel because you have to slow down while climbing up, otherwise you have to suffer. Also, it lacks a finish line. And look, High Speed Ring is back with a new fresh coat of paint. It has a bridge and more visible vegetation. Also, the old pit entrance blocked by a few flimsy cones, but you can enter without the game putting you in auto drive. Brilliant! Outer Ring is here too, unfortunately it looks really muted. Again, I much prefer the look from concept. While I'm glad Midfield Raceway and Apricot Hill are here, I still wish for more GT2 tracks to show up like Grindelwald or Red Rock Speedway. Those are fun tracks to be honest. There's also the aforementioned driving park tracks with Test Course Oval as well as 2 new ones, Motorland or Motorsports Land 2 in the Japanese version, and Beginner's Course, a tiny clockwise oval with a chicane on the back straight. That's cute. There's even this Gymkhana area where you can just do whatever, drive in circles, do a slalom, I don't care. It's nice that it's here, it's a lot better than this empty airport parking lot from Infusia. This one has cones! Next is the city tracks, which contain my own Divine Comedy, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. Aria is just the worst. Driving alone is fine. I can see this as a good challenging rally stage, and the scenery is pretty nice too. But when driving with another guy, oh boy, there's barely any chances for overtaking, and most of the latter half of the track is narrow enough to only fit one car. It's abysmal. It is no surprise that you can't race here in arcade mode, yet there's race events for this thing. This Paris track is just whatever, sharp and square corners all around, then a roundabout with the Arc of Triumph. You're gonna see this kind of layout structure a bit later, but I feel this is the most egregious. It doesn't help that it's also narrow, so your only possibilities for passing someone is in the starting straight and the roundabout. Still better than that other track though. I should also mention the Opera version for 6 car races, and it's pretty alright. These 2 bends are a challenge, but other than that, it's okay. Amalfi is the best of the 3. Aside from this slow S, it's a beautiful track to drive around. So smooth, so slick, and not overly narrow, so you can still do overtakes more easily. Tokyo is here, hooray. And Special Stage Route 5 is here too, alongside its returning clubman sibling. It's a shame Route 11 has been abandoned though. Monaco, or Côte d'Azur, because licensing's a bitch, I still don't like it. While I like the vibe of it, it's still a tight and narrow course. Fine for regular cars, but a nightmare for Formula 1 cars. Whoever gets pole is automatically the winner, unless something as terrible as in 1996 happens. Seattle is here, more outdated even on its release. It still has the Kingdom, despite being demolished for real in 2000. And then there's New York. Even putting the gobble textures aside, it ain't that interesting apart from the Times Square and the roundabout bits. Between those, it's just square corners galore, it's just maddening. Yeah, I can see why Force Away with just 2 long straights and a roundabout for its iteration. Seoul is much better. Like New York, it has a roundabout, but it also has this nice looking narrow straight, and the square turns don't overstay their welcome. I like it. And then there's this. Hong Kong is pretty fancy with fancy streets, fancy scenery, and a fancy sharp hairpin after a long straight. Holy hell! Sure, there's the square corners, typical of urban courses, but this part where you can see the island side of Hong Kong is just so nice. And we end with, oh right, I forgot, Vegas. Nothing special, it's just a quarter-mile straight on the strip, with a functioning timer at the end. Remember when GT2 was gonna have a drag racing mode but got cut at the last minute? Yeah, this game still doesn't have drag races despite having this track. Believably, we'll balling them again. Not me though, I just think drag racing is boring. Oh, whoever goes straight the fastest wins, that's nice. Call me when there's hurdles to jump over next time. Still better than the F1 track. And we finally move on to the glorified rallycross tracks. Aside from 2 legacy tracks, the Tahiti Maze and the Swiss Alps, the new ones are interesting. Grand Canyon as seen on Prologue, long and tight with a nice view of the canyon here. Don't think about falling because the cliffs have invisible walls to prevent that. And I really like how these idiots move back to the side as I approach them. I like it. Cathedral Rocks is more interesting though. The longer variant shares part of the layout with El Capitan. It's great. But these next 2 tracks are a first for the series. Snow tracks, Ice Arena, and Chamonix. I like the latter a lot because it's a long one with a turning bit at the starting side. It's visually more interesting than the hilly snowy side, almost looks incomplete. Unlocking tracks for arcade mode is about as easy as watching the year go by. Yeah, more coasters are available in specific days, and by year 2, you have all of them unlocked. Sure beats finishing licenses to get them. Anyways, back to this. I like that you can practice with your car in all the tracks rather than a few and rely instead on the arcade mode in GT3. And you even get to practice with auto AI drivers as well as doing spawn races for a paltry sum if you win. But oddly enough, if you want to do free practice, that'll be $5. This is the only game in this series to have entry fees and it's only used in practice sessions. What a weird game. Next is the Missions Hall, which is a mixed bag. Like no more race events, they're locked behind licenses, so yay. But they offer some unique challenge batches. There's the overtake duels, where you pass a car in a section of a track. There's the free lap battles, where you sometimes start with a significantly large gap and must win. The drafting ones, all say in the test course. Oh guys, not the Skyline one, don't make me do that again! And the 1-lap magic challenges, even for being really tedious. There are missions where your opponents get a head start, meaning you have to wait till the countdown is over, and then try to win it without restarting and waiting for the countdown to run out again. Yeah, they can be fun and challenging, but it's always irritating when you make a mistake and have to wait for a while again. The worst of it be the Nürburgring one. Not only it takes place at the most challenging track of the game, but you have to wait for 2 minutes before you even move at all. Ridiculous! Can you tell I can only tolerate doing the past missions? Moving away from actual gameplay, there's GT Auto, where you can change your car's oil, which is great, and wash your car, which is pointless. Sure, it does make your car shinier, but is it really worth it? At least it's 50 credits, so meh. You can also change your rims, though with the extra caveat of making you buy a set for each type of tire. Annoying, but you can also buy used wheels from other vehicles, including those from other brands. And you can also add a wing for more downforce. It's a shame I can't paint them the same color as my cars. Alright, what's next? Photo mode? Now that's the first for, any console game maybe? Not only can you take photos in a replay, so long as you have it saved, or by entering a photo session in the circuit menus, but you can also do it in some locations specifically made for it, from America, Japan, and Italy. Oh look, it's Vegas again. Unlike the scrapes from GT7 where it's just real life images and some clever programming, here the locations are fully modeled and fully realized. But even then it's still limited. It isn't as freeform as most photo modes. You can only put your car and camera in places you're allowed to put them, red for the car and blue for the camera. And choosing the FOV is done using this slider, unless you're taking a photo in a save replay, then you can use the sticks. But yeah, take a photo and save it to your memory card or pen drive. Make a slideshow out of it, set to classical music by default. Oh, I love Ultra Kill! What? Don't worry, most of them don't sound like that. While there's some of the usual suspects like Error on the G-string, Jesus, Joy of Man's Desiring, and Claire the Lune, even if it sounds so wrong, I'm glad it has some lesser known ones here. Heck, if you have a compatible printer, and Epson it seems, you can just print your saved photo straight from the game. Instead of saving it to a stick, put that in your PC and print that. Actually, that's much easier than procuring said printer. And that's where I'm gonna end this review. So, is Gran Turismo 4 the greatest racing game of all time? Is it? Is it? Is it? Well, no, but after GT3, this was certainly a breath of fresh air. The variety of cars is great if you ignore the many repeats, the track selection is top notch, and the driving feels so good as well. Even if it can be cheesed, it still isn't as grindy. It has variety, extra challenges, and bold decisions. Though I gotta be honest, I don't think it has the best career mode. That only goes to Forza 4. Because screw having to do the licenses, why did it have to be 16 each? Sorry if this was a review with rose-tinted glasses, but hopefully the 5th entry will be a huge improvement from this, even if it'll take a while to get it. Or maybe it won't be. All my PS3s are dead, so I don't know if it still holds up. But I'm having more luck with our PCS3, so when things improve, or, you know, get another PS3, I'll cover that. Next time, we're going back to 80s Florida. Now that I think about it, that's a terrible combo.